How many medieval weapons are there in the Houses of Parliament?
Which Downing Street cat has caused the biggest diplomatic incident?
And why are so many MPs whipped regularly, and not just in their private lives?
I'm John.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Cass, and we're here to tell you all about the unhinged world of British politics.
We're ranking all the Prime Ministers from Robert Walpole to the modern day.
We'll be telling the story of each Prime Minister's life, legacy and premiership.
Extra cash, a dukedom, even a garter. No matter what they walked away with, we'll be casting judgment and deciding whether they are...
a right-on or a right-off.
We are Primetime Prime Ministers. And remember...
never flinch, never weary, never despair. And find us wherever podcasts are found.
Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rate and review all the kings of Persia from Diocles to Yazdegerd III. I'm Sariel, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Umberto, my pronouns are he, him. Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 54, Pacorus II.
In which we take a resurgent empire and see if we can, not f*** it up immediately.
Yes. What are your expectations, Ariel? Do we drive this empire into a wall?
Please,
or do we continue to improve it?
It's been so many years of just... well, not even so many years. I guess so many episodes. Not that many years, because we've had, 10 kings in,
Yeah, it's been a while.
But it's been so long. Such a struggle for so long. Such a... Oh, can we please have a period of, prosperity for a little bit? I would like that.
I was just counting, and we have had 7 kings in about 50 years, which is kind of a lot. I want more stability out of that. And that's considering one king who ruled for 26 years.
Yeah.
So, 6 kings in 25 years is not great. Yeah, so we can see what happens with Pacorus. But first, we can just recap what happened in last episode under Vologases I, where things actually did go well. So, what happened is, Vologases took the throne, he was elected king without opposition, and hooray, hooray, he managed to guide the empire towards a glorious future. Internally, he had to deal with some rebellions, but he defeated them all. In the east, he had to deal with this new Kushan empire that is starting to rise and is kind of a threat. He fought a war with them. It's not really clear from the sources how well things went, but... there's no massive changes at least. But on the bright side, he managed to regain control of Armenia after a long, hard-fought war with Rome. Now his brother became king of Armenia and established a dynasty that would last 400 years.
Right, yes.
So that's fun. We also got to tour the empire at Rome's expense. That's always neat. Why not? And he also got back some sort of control over the Indo-Parthians, so that's also a nice bit of... tribute that we're getting. And then finally, in Rome, there was their civil war finally. Nero was deposed and died. We had Vespasian come to the throne, and he had an amicable relationship with Vologases. There was a bit of, snubbing each other back and forth, but there was no real sign of war, and everything went pretty well. On the other hand, Vologases also tended to stabilize the empire, centralize it a little bit, try to make sure that the nobles didn't get too uppity. And then he died after co-ruling with his son Pacorus for about a year at the end. And that leaves us to where we are. So
it was so
a
wonderful
good, positive
and perfect
picture.
And smooth transition and just great. Just fun times.
It's good. Good stuff. Lovely. So let's see if Pacorus can hold everything together or if he just fails. Also, incidentally, this is Pacorus II because Pacorus I... we've already had him, but he was just a co-king, so he didn't get his own episode. He was the favorite son of Orodes II, who then died in battle against the Romans, and that led to Phraates IV, and so on. So this is why we're having a second without having a first. So there.
Odd, but I'll take it.
Yeah, it happens. The numbering of Parthian monarchs is an absolute mess, so It happens. So let's start with, who is Pacorus? Where does he come from? Well, he was the son of Vologases I and his chosen heir, as we mentioned. He was probably born sometime in the first half of the century, and we don't really get much about his early life. The first time we get news about him is in the year 78, when he begins minting his own coins in parallel to his father's, suggesting that, again, he was named co-king together with Vologases, and in the last year, presumably when he was feeling sick and towards the end. Also, the interesting thing is that these original coins show Pacorus as a beardless young man, which could be one of two things. Either he is in his 20s when he became co-king, which seems likely given his age, thereabouts. Or it could also just be that he wasn't that young, but it just serves to distinguish him from Vologases. So that, if you have two coins, the one with the old man is for the old king, and the one with the young man is for the new king, so you kind of have an idea what's going on. And it also helps historians because at least it distinguishes this Pacorus from the Pacorus that is Vologases' brother. So we at least have something clear that we know who this person is. So that's good. But then in the year 79, Vologases dies and Pacorus becomes sole ruler of the empire at the death of his father. But things are not so simple in Parthia, as we've learned time and time again. Because Pacorus has two brothers. One is called Artabanus, which adds more confusion to the numbering of the Artabanuses in Parthian history. And there's another one called Vologases as well. Now the problem is that Artabanus is older than Pacorus, and we're not really sure what age Vologases II is. Now, given the fact that Pacorus has an elder brother, at least one, we can assume that he was chosen on merit by his father, and that it wasn't just, whoever will do, whoever's the oldest, you can succeed. But that was slightly chaotic, because both Pacorus' brothers decide that they would be better kings than Pacorus, so they start a civil war.
As you usually do, yeah.
So, what happens is that the two are differently dangerous. Vologases II is the least dangerous one, because he doesn't really have any pre-existing support. It looks like he was either too young or not trusted enough by Vologases I to actually be given some land to control. But Artabanus was given lands to rule in northern Mesopotamia by his father. So he already has a base of support that he can use to further attack the central authority and try and gain the throne.
Understandably more dangerous, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of concerning. So we don't really hear much about how the civil war itself went about, but we hear that Artabanus took the city of Seleucia briefly in 80 or 81, and that meant that he was the one that was interacting with Rome for a while. And that leads us to an interesting situation that, well, I will tell you now. Because in the year 79, a man called Terentius Maximus...
Okay.
Yes.
Good name.
Terentius Maximus, yes. He appeared in the east of the Roman Empire and traveled all the way to the Euphrates. Now, why is he interesting? Well, because he claimed to be the Emperor Nero.
Okay. Who we met last chapter.
Yes, and has been dead for about 11 years.
Yeah, so odd that.
Yes, strange. Well, then why did he impersonate Nero and not just like anybody else? Because, well, Nero was pretty popular in the East, especially.
Was he?
Well, among the people, he was quite popular because he was a diva and everybody was like, haha, absolute legend, Nero.
Right. Good celebrity, bad ruler.
Yeah. And also in the East, he was seen as the guy who stopped the war with Parthia. So everybody was like, well, he did give us peace, so...
Yeah, so he's cool.
Did a good job, I guess.
I can see that.
Forget about the fact that we lost Armenia, but we're at peace now, so good. And, well, this Terentius Maximus, this false Nero, was also a very good lyre player, so he did go around and had a lovely playing, showing who he was and being very fancy.
Literally Nero impersonator.
Yeah. Also, the fact that Nero died without many witnesses is a good source for rumors,
Of course.
Yeah, he died attended by, like, a couple slaves. who knows? Was that really Nero? Was it just a secret Nero? You know, we've had people talk about Elvis showing up
Yeah.
and faking his death. Nero is definitely a similarly diva-ish person. And then we also get a passage in the Sibylline Oracles, which is a collection of myths and prophetic statements, which stated, "And then from Italy a great emperor shall flee in the guise of a servant, unseen and unrecognized, across a ford of the Euphrates. He who will at length suffer his mother's curse for a loathsome murder, and has relied on his vile hand for many other crimes. And many shall stain the earth about the Roman throne with blood, while he is in flight across the land of Parthia."
Wait. Is Italy a thing?
Italy is, as a geographical expression, it's a thing.
Oh, okay. So that's like
You know,
the
it exists.
peninsula.
The area. It's not a country.
I see.
It's the place. The administrative division of the empire. So apparently there is a prophecy that a hidden Nero would show up and cross into Parthia.
That's very specific.
Yes. Which, questionable. The fact that it's so specific, but, maybe the prophecy existed and somebody thought, yeah, I'll try and fulfill this. This sounds cool. Or, who knows, maybe it's just a massive coincidence that happens sometimes. So this imposter then walked into the lands controlled by Artabanus, and was greeted with open arms because, well, Nero gave Armenia to the Parthians, so yeah, sure, we'll support him. If he's going to give us more land if we put him on the throne, that sounds amazing. So Artabanus made preparations to restore this Nero to the throne, also because his own claim hadn't been supported by the Roman Emperor Titus.
Right.
So, if we can replace the Roman Emperor with a Roman Emperor that supports us, that'll help us win the Civil War.
Indeed.
But we're then told that apparently it was later discovered that Terentius Maximus was indeed an imposter,
Surprise.
and Artabanus had him executed, although the details are sketchy. Because presumably you don't really care if you have an imposter on the Roman throne, but maybe there
they
was
were caught and
some
then he was like, "Oh, you have fooled me! How dare you!" And yeah,
that sort of thing.
The
You
only
don't
way
want
to
to look
get
dumb.
out
Maybe
is-
somebody said, "Oh,
Yeah.
Nero had a birthmark that looked like this, and this guy doesn't." It's like, well, you just said that in court. I can't just say, "Oh, no, it's totally cool. He had laser surgery."
Trust me.
So, yeah.
It's fine. Birthmarks disappear all the time. Can't birthmarks disappear? I guess some of them, right?
I
Or
am not
change?
that kind of doctor. I don't know.
I'll have to Google that because that would be interesting if it actually was Nero.
It doesn't feel like they would change.
Yeah, I know the birthmark thing was also like just made up.
Yeah, sure.
I know. It sent me into a spiral of like,
Yeah.
interesting story.
It doesn't sound like the type of thing that disappears. They might fade over time, but it doesn't sound like that. But anyway.
Listeners, if you know, get in touch.
Yes. Let us
Otherwise,
know, please.
I'll, ask Google.
Dr. Google will help us. But anyway, by the time of 82-83, our protagonist Pacorus managed to defeat his brothers, both Vologases II and Artabanus the questionably numbered, and he managed to finally govern all of the empire on his own. It was a bit of a rocky succession, but he made it. We even get a lovely commemorative coin with Artabanus presenting a diadem to Pacorus, kneeling before him.
Oh.
So that's always nice to have, and it shows that, yay, we won the Civil War, hurrah, we made it. This is when a visitor came to the court.
Huzzah.
Can you guess who the visitor is, Serial?
Well, certainly not Nero. We've already had him from the dead. What are we doing right now?
We just finished the Civil War. The false Nero was executed.
Is it the Romans who are sending somebody, or is it somebody else?
Just somebody showing up on his own.
Are
It was Emperor Nero, of course, Serial.
you
Emperor Nero, back from the grave.
Are you serious right now?
Yes,
Oh my God.
Emperor Nero.
Oh my god! I was absolutely joking because I'm like, well, it can't be because we just had him show up.
This is the real Emperor Nero,
Oh
Serial.
my god!
Back from the grave
Fool me
20
once,
years later.
Shame on me.
Yes.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. Maybe this time is true. what are the odds that he would, that two
what are the odds that there will be two
impersonators would
imposters?
show up?
I
Like,
mean,
certainly one of these Nigerian princes must be real.
Exactly. I've received 10 emails from Nigerian princes. One of them has to be legitimate.
What is happening right now? Okay, please tell me. I need to know.
So yes, this Nero came to the court of Pacorus and said, "Oh, great king, I'm the Emperor Nero. Please restore me to my throne." And Pacorus had a bit of a thought.
Did we execute him?
Pacorus thought a little bit and thought, it might be convenient to have an imposter on the Roman throne.
we
Who
wanted this to
knows?
begin with.
Yeah, it's a fun start. But then he gets a letter from the Romans. Domitian sends a letter saying, "Don't you even try. Don't you dare. We both know this isn't the real Nero.
It ain't gonna
Don't
work.
try it.
Aw.
This is going to be a big and bloody war for just a random idiot.
Aw.
Don't."
I mean, we just got out of a civil war too, so
Yes. So Pacorus thinks about it and says, "Yeah, that would be dumb. That wouldn't be that fun, and yeah, okay, fine. Let's not do this war." So he hands over the fake Nero to Domitian, who then promptly has him executed.
Yep.
So, good talk. Good stuff.
I mean-
Nero's there.
What did you expect? This trick was just tried on us. Like, and honestly, like, if it were for us, it would have worked, because, like,
Yeah. If Rome was in a more unstable situation, it would have been better, but
But we all knew that you weren't Nero,
Yeah.
so...
Can you imagine if the second guy was really
Yeah.
Emperor Nero and he was like, no, but this time for real, it's actually
I was
me."
just thinking that, I'm like, that would be a hilarious story, actually.
Yes.
Can someone make this into a movie? It doesn't have to be a serious movie. I just,
It could be a great movie. Come on, you can do it. Write a novel about this. L.J. Trafford. Write a fan fiction. That'd be great. Okay.
So
but
what
now
now?
that we've gotten rid of the second Emperor Nero, Roman troubles are still around, because we're told that
When
in the
are
next
they not?
decade, the Emperor Domitian began preparations for an invasion of Parthia, with the aim of taking Mesopotamia and even Bactria. So he's doing the full Alexander the Great. But fortunately for us, Domitian was murdered before he could attempt this, but the plans remained in a little folder labeled "For my successor, Trajan." So we'll see if that goes anywhere, who knows. In the meantime, Pacorus founded some new cities along the Euphrates, one called Pacoria and one called Teridata, possibly in a dual role so they could better manage trade and be forts in case of an invasion, because, hey, the Romans are getting uppity, let's be careful. So, overall, Pacorus seems to follow in the more Iranizing footsteps of Vologases, expanding and embellishing the new capital of Ctesiphon, making sure that the empire becomes more Iranian, less Greek, as it was before. There might have also been a minor border dispute with the Romans in these years, but we don't really have many sources on them. Whatever it was, it didn't amount to much. But the real problem came to Pacorus from the inside, because he was challenged by a man called Osroes, or Chosroes, but Hellenized as Osroes, who may have been either Pacorus' brother or brother-in-law. So whatever the case may be, this Osroes managed to gain the support of the Western nobles, who are always just there being a pain, and we have barely any detail, but we know that the capital of Ctesiphon changed hands several times, and Pacorus did not regain it at all after the year 97. So the empire is now essentially split between East and West. The West under Osroes, and the East under the legitimate Pacorus. So that's not great. We've split the empire in two, and the Romans have plans for an invasion. I wonder how that will work out for any future Roman emperors that start with a T and end with Aegon. We'll see. But worse news, Serial. We have a new visitor.
Oh my god, I swear to god. Please. Tell me it's not
it's
Nero.
okay. It's not Nero.
Oh my
This
God.
time it's from
For
it's
a
from the
moment,
opposite
just my
direction.
heart cannot
It's cool.
take it anymore.
There is a third imposter Nero, but he doesn't leave the Roman Empire, so
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well.
We get news from the East. In the year 97, the Protector General of the West for the Celestial Emperor He of Han sent an envoy called Gan Ying on a mission to Syria to establish diplomatic contact with the Romans.
All right.
So, Gan Ying arrived at the Parthian court and was greeted magnanimously by Pacorus, who said, "You want to talk with the Romans? For an alliance, you say? You want China and Rome to be allies, and we're in the middle, you say?"
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
I see what the the reasoning here. Very interesting. Yeah.
Yes, so, show me your map on how you're planning to get to Syria.
What did the Romans ever do for you that we cannot, do better? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. We can be friends. We've been friends for centuries. We have this whole Silk Road thing going on.
like, don't you know about our history and like our, previous emperors and how well they got together and all of the come on. It's been great for
Exactly.
business. Merchants are so happy.
Yeah, and he takes Gan Ying's map and says, no, you can't reach Syria by land. That would take you years. The easiest way to gain Syria is by sea, and that route would take at least 2 years to get there. So I'm sorry, it looks like your journey to the Roman land is pretty much impossible.
You just can't get there. I haven't even been there myself. It's just too complicated.
Yeah, but, thanks for visiting. Send our regards to the Chinese emperor. Bye-bye now. Have fun. And feeling that this might have been a very long trip, but he can't make it to Rome, Gan Ying decided, well, I guess the Parthians would know where the Romans are. I guess I'll go home and tell the emperor that the Romans are just too distant to be in contact with.
Seriously?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but send better diplomats, guys.
But it worked. Hey, it's nice.
Hey, maybe there were more reasons, like the fact that he knows what we are doing, but he's like, if they catch me trying to get to Rome, they'll just kill me.
Yeah, it might be. There was also a civil war going on in the middle.
Yeah, maybe he just wasn't paid enough for this. I don't know.
I mean, what is the emperor gonna do? Is the emperor gonna go personally to Rome and find that you lied? Come on. I mean, in our special episode on Emperor Wu of Han,
yes,
we saw that the messenger that was too scared to go and send a message about Prince Ju just told the emperor, yeah, no, he's rebelling.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my god, I forgot.
That one time, so it might be a pattern with Chinese messengers, we don't know. But also to encourage the Chinese to remain friendly and have nice deals, in 101, a few years later, Pacorus sent lavish gifts of lions and ostriches to the Chinese court, saying, hey guys, remember how we were really good friends? Look, I sent you lions and ostriches.
Yeah.
And we apparently get a Chinese document saying that Pacorus sent some fubo to the court. What is a fubo? It looks like a unicorn, but without a horn.
So a horse.
Which kind of sounds like a weird horse to me. Yeah, I don't know why this is a special category of animal.
I mean, to be fair, I am a big fan of unicorns that don't just look like horses, but are more ungulate, more deer-like, with the long tail and the beard and a bit more fragile, if you will, or elegant than a horse.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, more in an antelope or deer vibe.
I guess.
But
might have been some weird antelope, I don't know.
But I've never heard of this animal, so...
Neither have historians. They're all very confused.
Interesting. Maybe it was just a horse that looked a bit funny.
Could have been just a very nice horse. Might be. One of those horse with fingers for feet.
Yeah, cool. I still want to see that really badly. Dita lives in my heart.
Caesar's horse.
Yes.
But yeah, so apart from contact with the Chinese, the East is on fire. Because the Kushan Empire that Vologases I had been fighting with has now massively expanded. They've marched into India, they've conquered the Indo-Parthians, and they've begun to nibble away at the Parthian territories along the Silk Road, and the Kushans are taking this important source of revenue, which is kind of problematic. And this might also explain Pacorus' embassies towards China, and, trying to ask them for help against these Kushans and saying, hey, if we work together, we won't have this other intermediary being in the way, but apparently, whatever it was, it didn't work because Pacorus loses lands in the east, and the Chinese are just as happy to make deals with the Kushans. But Pacorus didn't only focus his efforts on the east, he planned for diplomacy in the west as well, because he contacted King Decebalus of Dacia.
Where's Dacia again?
Dacia is roughly in modern Romania,
Okay.
and Decebalus was a great enemy of the new Roman Emperor Trajan. So much so that Trajan makes a plan for a grand campaign to invade Dacia and depose Decebalus and get a bunch of the gold and silver that's in Dacia.
Okay, so we are in Trajan times now.
Yes, Trajan has arrived.
Trajan didn't succeed right after Nero. He's like the...
No, we have Nero, Galba Otho, Vitellius Vespasian, Titus, Domitian, Nerva, and
Oh
then
my...
Trajan.
Okay, so it's been... So the Roman Empire is like on flames.
They've had stuff,
Okay.
yes.
In flames.
I mean, the
guess.
Flavians are pretty nice. They had, like, the year of the 4 emperors after Nero.
Yeah.
Then the Flavians were relatively stable. Then Domitian got a bit tyranty and was killed. And now we're in the period of the 5 good emperors in Rome.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay, continue.
So that's where we are in Roman history.
Yeah, like, I don't really... I was gonna say, I don't really care. Like, this is not the Roman history podcast, but since Rome is constantly getting all up in our business, I want to know, like, are they at a stable point or are they at a, oh god, everything is burning point?
They are now in a we're getting very stable.
Yes.
This
If they're
is
at
the golden
Trajan,
age.
Trajan is, like, good. Yeah. So.
Yes.
Oof.
Trajan is the Optimus Princeps. He is the best emperor, according to the Senate at least. But anyway, Pacorus contacts Decebalus, who is the great enemy of Trajan, and he sends him some heavy cavalry with which to fight the Romans, saying, hey, maybe make some trouble for them. I'm fighting a civil war. I don't own Mesopotamia right now. Please help. I don't want the Romans fighting us right now. It would be terrible if the Romans invaded Mesopotamia while the empire split in two and in a terrible civil war. In exchange, Decebalus gifted a Greek slave called Calidromus to Pacorus. And apparently this man had a really weird history, which is very interesting, because he was captured during a Dacian raid on Roman lands, and then the Dacians gifted him to Pacorus. Then this man escaped from Pacorus and appeared in Roman territory again, where he was re-enslaved by 2 bakers. And then he ran away from the bakers and told the central government, hey, this is my life story, please, I don't want to be a slave.
Wow.
And apparently, this shows up in a letter of Pliny the Younger, who was a historian and governor of Anatolia for Trajan, who sends a letter to Trajan saying, hey, this happened. What should we do with this guy?
Interesting.
What do you think, Your Majesty? And unfortunately, we don't have the reply to this letter, but we have this guy's absolutely wild life story of being, like, carried from west to east all across the Mediterranean until finally, hopefully getting free. Let's hope for this guy, because, you know, he was captured in a border raid like 10 years before.
Interesting.
You want him to go home at last.
That's, like, wow. I'm glad we have the story. Like,
Yeah, it's really interesting just to know this one guy just had a really wild decade. And definitely not a fun time if he was a slave. Bad times. We then get some more news about what Pacorus did in his empire. It looks like he managed to gain some more land in the west. He gained some support because he sold the kingdom of Osroene to one of the sons of Izates of Adiabene, the Jewish king who had sheltered Artabanus III and almost went to war with Vologases I. We've heard him for a while. So kingdom is back in their hands. And this tells us that Pacorus probably had some land in the west, and despite his rival Osroes having control of most of Mesopotamia, there was still a lifeline to the west. But it's at this point where Pacorus then disappears in history in favor of a man called Vologases III, who seems to have been his son. And this Vologases III is only inheriting half of the empire. He's going to have to deal with the usurper Osroes in control of the western provinces. And further to the west, Trajan is coming. So let's see how our boy Vologases III is going to deal with that in the next episode.
oh dear, oh god. Trajan's coming.
Yes. Oh dear, oh god. The Romans are coming, the Romans are coming. Hide everything of value. You know what they're like. Okay, so what are your thoughts on Pacorus, Ariel?
Like, so much happened, and at the same time, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like, empire-wise, I'm like, okay, I felt like so many things were gonna go down, and then nothing really fully did.
Yeah.
But then there were so many like crisscrossing stories.
Yes.
I am a bit confused.
Yeah, mostly because this is a period of a lot of peace between Rome and Parthia, so the Romans aren't caring very much.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of civil war. A first civil war he suppressed, a second civil war which he definitely did not and is now in control of some of the richest parts of the empire. And, well, now he's dead, and we need to figure out what happened to him.
Yep.
Okay, so I'd say let's get ready to rate him and see how he does. Our first category is final moments. How interesting was his death? Disappearing into nothingness with no information.
Not one of the best, sadly.
No, I think just like a plain 0 because we know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, presumably he died relatively peacefully because his son succeeded.
Yeah.
Or somebody we presume his son succeeded. But, it's very shady. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go for a 0. How about you? Matching as well?
Yeah, it doesn't really tell me much, sadly.
So, with a 0 and a 0, he gets a 0 out of 10 for final moments. Our next category is battle hardness. How good was he at war and fighting? So he has pros and cons. On the positive side, he managed to defeat his two brothers, Vologases II and Artabanus the Questionably Numbered. In the original civil war, he managed to consolidate power on the throne. So that's good, that's a bonus. He defeated two brothers. I'd say that's worth something. On the downside, he is not doing well at all. Because he loses land in the east to the Kushans.
Mm-hmm.
Kushans are nibbling at the edge of the empire. They definitely destroy the Indo-Parthians with no support from the central government. So that's not ideal. So he does that in the east, and then in the west, the more serious and horrible thing is that he loses the west of the empire.
Yeah, that's,
Like, he isn't overthrown, so I guess he can hold Osroes back, but he does lose Mesopotamia, the richest bit of the empire, which is bad news all around. That's not fun. And, consequently loses support of Armenia, which is now under Osroes' control. So he succeeds a little bit at the start, but then fails really hard.
Fair enough.
At the end. I feel like I'd give him one tiny point for the fact that he does survive the first civil wars and he doesn't get overthrown. But everything else he fails at is so large that I can't really do much. So yeah, I think I'm going to go for a 1. How about you?
I mean, when you put it that way, I can't really see more redeeming, like if I give him a 2, it's like, why? Why that extra point?
It's just like,
so I guess, yeah.
It's like he tried, but no. So yeah, with a 1 and a 1, he gets a 2 out of 20 for battle hardness. Our next category is scheminess. How good was he at plots and manipulations? We have a little something here. We have the original attempt of maybe using a false Nero. He gives it up quite quickly, but,
The attempt was there.
He thinks about it for a bit.
Because, there's no way that we're like, yeah, maybe this is Nero.
No, because come on. It's been 20 years since the guy supposedly died. Even if it was actually Nero, this isn't very realistic.
Yeah.
So, that was one slightly schemy thing. Another nice schemy thing is telling Gan Ying, the Chinese ambassador, no, Rome is way too far away. You can never reach it, you die before reaching it, go home.
Because I was gonna be like, how stupid can this ambassador be? But on the other hand, I'm like, nah, he probably was like, I don't want to get into, this awful journey that is gonna take me forever for nothing, especially now that there's a civil war going on and stuff. So if this is a good excuse as any other to be like, bye.
Yeah, exactly. If the king told me, I could just say the king told me.
Yeah.
Let's go. So that's a nice bit of scheminess. I like that about him. And otherwise, not much else.
I wonder if that guy had to pay for it once he got back, because then the emperor of China would be like, dude, what the hell?
Don't know.
Because you have to fear the journey more than you fear going back without results, right?
Yeah. Let me see.
Or maybe he was really just clueless. I don't know.
Yeah, apparently we don't know what happened to him.
No.
I mean, we presume that he made it back because he did right stuff about his mission. So, presumably the emperor thought, yeah, that's fair enough. I didn't ask you to go to the ends of the earth. I asked you to get to Rome if it was convenient.
If you could.
Apparently it's not. So, yeah, that's a fun bit of scheminess from Pacorus. But otherwise, anything else I don't... you could consider the talking to Decebalus. I don't know if you wanted to put that under scheminess or just diplomacy. Just going to Decebalus, sending some soldiers to fight the Romans at a distance, on the down low. I don't know how you'd consider that. I feel like, in my head, that just rounds it up to a 2.
Maybe, yeah.
What are your thoughts? Because I feel like there's 1 full point for the Ganying thing, and then I'd say half a point for the false Nero, half a point for the Decebalus. That gives me a full 2. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Matching as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so with a 2 and a 2, we get a 4 out of 20 for scheminess. Our next category is shock factor. How shocking was this man? Not terribly.
Nah, it was fine.
Like, he didn't do much. He fought his brothers in a civil war, but it was a civil war. He did support the false Nero, but that's not terribly shocking. That makes sense. The most shocking thing I could say is that he lost half of the empire, but I feel like that's not so much shocking as Ehrenstein issues. So, on his own, I don't feel like there's really anything to talk about for shock factor. I don't know if anything comes to mind to you, but it was just...
No, not really. It wasn't very shocking at all.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I feel like if you're matching me with a 0, we're going to go for a 0-0, which is 0 out of 20 for shock factor. Our next category is Ehrenstein. How good was he for the Empire in general and Iran in particular? Bad. He was bad. He was handed an empire that was doing great, and now it's not. It is definitely not doing great.
I'm not surprised, but still disappointed.
Yes. It's just like we had a brief glimpse of hope under Vologases I, and now it's like, Pacorus, you had one job. So what happens? Let's recap. Okay, let's look at the good things first. What did he do that was positive? He strengthened the support of China. He strengthened trade relations with them, sent them some nice gifts, and made sure that they didn't reach the Romans. That's important. He also founded some new cities in Mesopotamia and ensured the continuations of his father's policies. So that's nice. He allied with Rome's enemies in the west, with Dacia, and tried to get an anti-Roman front going on. So that's neat. Those are the positives. On the negatives, he lost the western half of the empire to a usurper.
Yep.
That's the richest part of the empire, where the capital is. That's not great. That's not fun. He lost control of the Indo-Parthians, who are now entirely absorbed by the Kushan Empire. The Kushans are eating at Parthia's eastern border. Some border cities are being taken away, and things are very unstable. Pacorus is now left with the central bit of Iran, and he's beset on all sides by enemies. And, what are we doing now? Now what? Can the Empire recover the West? Can the Empire recover the East? It could have gone worse, but not much worse.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing that could have gone worse is if the Empire had been destroyed. But I'm wondering if it's even worth a 1.
The fact that you're comparing it to, the Empire didn't completely get obliterated, it says a lot.
Yeah. It's because, you've lost so much stuff. It's just, he did do some positive things.
Did he?
I mean, he strengthened relations with China, made allies with Rome's enemies, kind of improved the empire a little bit. I feel like I want to give him a token 1 for the fact that he tried, but nothing more than that. I don't think he deserves more. Because he didn't destroy the empire. The empire isn't gone or in tatters. Sure. We're still flying half an empire, but that's not great. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with a 1 just because you gave it a shot, but I'm not impressed. How about you, Sarah? What do you think? Do you think he deserves this 1, or do you think it's just nah?
No, he does. It wasn't... I didn't get the feeling while listening that it was that terrible, but of course, I was also distracted with, 30 million different stories that were happening at the time. Yeah. So, no, I think a 1 is fair, because he was not good. And,
Yeah, no, I mean, there was no single catastrophic event.
Yeah, but
it was a
overall
lot of
everything
just
went in decline,
erosion
which
of the
like makes me so
empire.
mad because like we were finally doing better.
If Pacorus had been a competent, strong king, then the empire would have been in a new golden age. But this is what happens when you take a golden age and give it to somebody who's just not very good. Isn't that right, Commodus?
Well,
Commodus is unfair. Pacorus at least tried.
yeah, it wasn't completely
anyway.
incompetent.
So yeah, with a 1 and a 1, we get a 2 out of 20 for Aaron Shine. Our next category is Face of Faces. What do you think this man looked like?
I will need a minute.
Yes. Okay, so Serial has finished their drawing. Let me pick it up and I'll describe it to you all. Okay, very nice. So, what we have here are two individuals. We have, on the left, a sheepish-looking man with a neckbeard and curly hair and a laurel wreath around his head and a toga, touching his index fingers together and looking around. And to his right, we have our boy Pacorus, dressed in a nice Parthian robe, extending his hand out towards this man. He has a nice beard, a nice helm with spikes on it and stylized horns on the edge, and nice flowy curly hair. And as Pacorus points at this man, he says, what, another one? Because this is the second Nero imposter we've had.
Ta-da! It killed me. I had to. I know he was not, like, probably this was not his reaction, right? Because we clocked it pretty early on, but I could not deal.
Yeah. Yes, we've had one, but what about second Nero imposter?
Wait, let me make that.
Yes, good. That will be on our socials. So listeners, if you would like to see this drawing, you can go in the notes of our episode, the description of the podcast episode, or you can go to our website and go to Serial's portrait gallery to find it. And now let me show Serial what this man actually looked like, and they can tell us what they think. Here he is.
Yeah, it's. Well, I really like the hat. The hat is gorgeous.
Exactly.
It is kind of how I've drawn it. I mean, I was going off of like a description that you've given me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at the portraits beforehand, but like before I draw mine. But sometimes I ask Umberto for like, okay, give me like some, distinctive
Vibes.
thing. The hat is really pretty. It has this curly spikes on the top and the horns and a star that I forgot. It's a good touch. Also, is he wearing a ring on his ear?
Looks like he has an earring, yeah.
That's so cool. And a shorter beard, and honestly, this is fun. Like, it's still a coin on profile, very classic vibes.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the hat, and I love, if I saw this, I could tell it's him.
Yeah, exactly. I like that there's some variety. Not so much, his face is normal.
Yeah, the face is just a face.
There's
like,
no
it probably doesn't really
features.
reflect much of, like, what he actually looked like, except for the shorter beard, I guess. But
yeah, this is probably one of his earlier coins.
Yeah, like
when
a
he's
younger,
still a younger man.
Yeah.
But I do like the hat. I like he has nice, thicker, poofy curls at the back of his head. So that's neat. And yeah, I think this is quite a nice coin. I'm not blown away, but I think I'm in 6 territory. How about you?
Yeah, I like that. The 6 sounds, I can't remember what I gave the other ones, but as long as this is higher, that checks.
Let me check what you gave other people. Who did you give a 6 to? Gave a 6 to Artabanus II?
Can't really remember.
I can't really remember what he had. Let me just see if I can get what we use for Artabanus II. The third, actually. Sorry. What you got for Artabanus III? Oh yeah, Artabanus III had a weird front-facing portrait with a nice long beard. That was interesting. It was slightly varied. And so you gave him a 6. You also gave a 6 to Musa. He had a nice coin with a nice curly hat. So that's roughly what you've had so far. So do you think you're going to stick with a 6 or elsewhere?
Yeah, I think a 6 is fine.
6 is good? Okay. So with a 6 and a 6, we get a 3 out of 5 for Face of Faces. Our next category is lengthiness. How long do you think this man reigned?
How fast did everything go to hell?
Yes. What are you thinking? Single years, decades?
I'm thinking between 5 I was gonna say between 5 and 10, but 10 feels like a lot. So probably 5. 5 years.
5 years. Well, you could not be more wrong, Serial. He reigned for 31 years.
What?
No sources, but 31 years.
Oh, well, that makes maybe the lack of sources made
problem.
everything very...
Yeah, they're
together.
mostly peaceful with Rome, 31 years, but yeah, that's the issue. So yeah, he reigned from the year 79 to 110, which is why we go through quite a few Roman emperors. Giving him a total of 31 years, divided by 10 is 3.1 out of 5 for lengthiness. And that brings us to the final score, which is a grand total of 14.1 out of 100 points, which places him between Artaxerxes IV and Artabanus II, which is not a comparison I would like to make to myself. It is not flattering. He's in the teens club. It's not a club full of successful people. Yeah, he tried, but it just kind of went on fire a little bit. So, not terribly impressive. Sorry, Pacorus, this was... you were given better conditions. You should have kept them up. But that leads us to the final question, which is to say, is he civil war-y enough? Is he chaotic enough? Is he tricking ambassadors enough to be a Shahanshah? Or is he just a Shahanah?
Sadly, I don't think he was,
Yeah, I mean, it was 30 years of reign that felt like 5 years.
Yep.
That's a bad sign.
I'm glad that you're like, yeah, no, you're right. It felt like this. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly because, again, it's unfortunate we have no sources, but you were a terrible king. We don't have many sources on you. It's not even a fun terrible. It's just you were not very good at your job. So I think we can give you, with no regrets, a Shahanah. You can go into the desert, meet Vologases I and tell him, sorry, Dad, I messed everything up. And yeah, you were maybe becoming a Shahanshah. I definitely was not. So that is the end of today's episode. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be, depending on when this comes out and our plans, we might be having a hiatus for the holiday period, or we might not. Who knows? Just keep that in mind for the future. And enjoy the holidays if you celebrate them.
Indeed.
And yeah, at the same time, if you need something to distract you in this period, we have a poll going on in our Patreon. In our Patreon, we have a poll deciding on what our next special episode will be. Special series of episodes will be.
Oh, yeah.
It's very neck and neck. Everybody is very divided. So if you want to make your voice heard, this is the time. The choices are The Last Kings. So we're going to look at Antiochus VII, Demetrius II of the Seleucid Empire, and then Artabanus IV of the Parthian Empire, which is at the end there. We then also have the Maurya Empire, so the first Indian empire that was interacting with the early Seleucids. Those are interesting. Otherwise, we have a bunch of religious travelers, which are St. Thomas, the Apostle, going all the way to India. Dionysus conquering India and telling us why kings identified with Dionysus.
Dionysus, the god?
The god, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Fun.
And then we have also Alexander of Abnoticus, who was a strange prophet who was going around in roughly the period we're describing and was so followed that he caused an invasion of Armenia. Figure out what was that about. So you can follow us on Patreon and support us there, and you also get a bunch of extra episodes, which is nice. If instead you'd rather not support us monetarily, that's fine, but we'd appreciate if you can give us a review on your podcast app of choice to let other people know that you would like us and that we exist, so we can make more friends throughout. So yeah, that is the end of today's episode. We hope you'll join us next time for Vologases III and Trajan and the misadventures. Oh God, the Romans are coming, the Romans are coming.
Run away!
Someone help us. So yeah, we hope you have a lovely week and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Take care. Goodbye.